Hey there, Plan Bers. Greetings and welcome back to another episode of Plan B Success. You might not realize it, but you're probably already familiar with the concept of feedback loops. The next time you eat dinner with friends, look at their faces as they take their first bite of food. Chances are that they'll be grimacing or cringing in response to what they taste. But then, if they like what they're eating, those same faces will soon transform into smiles. We've all experienced a feedback loop like this before. We just did not know what it was called until now. Imagine that you have never heard feedback about your work. You have no idea about how you're doing and how to improve. You have no idea if your work is good or bad, since there's no one there to tell you the truth. No one to give you the information you need to make changes in order to improve efficiency and productivity. You may be working hard, but if all that effort isn't getting results, isn't helping you improve your performance, then it might as well not be done at all. The good news is that this situation can quickly change for the better once someone gives you some specific direction on where you need improvement and what steps need to be taken in order for you to reach your goals faster. You don't know how you're doing, and so you have no idea how to improve. If you want to improve, you need feedback. You can give yourself feedback by looking at your work and trying to figure out how well it communicates your message. But that only works if you already know what your message is. Asking other people for their opinions on your work also gives you information about how well it communicates its message. But usually a lot of people will have different things to say about what worked or did not work for them. And that means there's no clear consensus about whether or not the project was successful. So what can you do? You may be in a very unfortunate loop. Feedback loops are situations where the output of a system is fed back into the system as input. They're important for learning and skill development. Feedback loops exist in many different settings, including sports, video games, and even relationships. But once you start getting feedback, on the other hand, things can go a lot better. Feedback is an important part of learning. It allows us to improve our skills and correct mistakes, learn new things, and understand what we need to do in order to get better. Let's look at an example. Say you want to learn how to play guitar, but have no idea where to start. Your first step should be finding someone who plays guitar and asking them some questions about it. What they like about it, what they don't like about it, when they practice their instrument, etc. This kind of feedback would help you understand whether this instrument is right for you or not, and if so, then how long it'll take before you become good at playing. Imagine that you now get a correcting signal to your work. The feedback could be positive or negative, but let's say it's negative. The text is too light. This information helps you improve your work. Next time, you might add more contrast in the font color and increase the opacity of the text. Feedback can come from many sources. It doesn't have to come from other people. It can also come from technology like spreadsheets or an app on your phone that tells you how long you've been sitting still and sends reminders when it's time for breaks. But it often does come from humans who interact with us in some way. Friends or family members giving us advice on a certain topic. Our boss giving us direction about what needs doing at work. Even strangers giving us suggestions on where we should go out for dinner based on their experience or lack thereof with food options in our area. Now you know not just that you did something wrong, but what exactly you need to do in order to get better. And now you're much more likely to succeed. In this way, feedback is a corrective signal. When someone tells you that your work is valuable, it helps you understand where you can improve and focus on improving those areas instead of wasting time and energy on things that are already good enough. That's why feedback doesn't always have to be tied up in a package with an apology or regret. Half of the time, it's simply a way for us to get better at our jobs or at life in general. Feedback loops exist in many different settings. Feedback loops are found in a variety of settings. They can be positive or negative, and they're often used to learn. For example, if you give someone feedback about their performance at work, positive or negative, that person will likely be more able to improve their skills going forward. A feedback loop is a process where data is used to make changes in the future. If I'm trying out for a new job and I get feedback from an interview with my potential employer, this information can help me prepare better for my next interview by letting me know what areas I need to focus on improving before my next test with them. They're particularly important for learning and skill development. Feedback loops are the most important way that we learn. They are what allows us to improve our skills and develop better ways of thinking. Feedback loops are a powerful tool for learning, but they can be tricky to use as well. The first step in using feedback loops effectively is understanding them. Here's what you need to know. Some people might think that feedback loops are only useful for skills we learn through training, like running or playing a sport. The feedback loop is a powerful tool that can be used to learn any skill, whether or not it's something you have trained for and or have experience in. A simple example would be learning how to play the guitar, like we talked. If you don't know how to play the guitar, but want to learn, you'll probably go on YouTube and find people who know more about playing the instrument than yourself. Then, those people will show you what they know about playing the instrument in a way that makes sense for them. Maybe explaining it from another angle, giving tips on posture and technique, etc. By watching these videos and listening carefully and practicing, over time, you'll start getting better, until eventually your skills match up with theirs. It may take a few years, but it's possible if you stick with it long enough. But they're just as important for learning basic skills like walking, talking, and eating. For example, let's look at how you learned to walk as a child. When you were first learning how to walk, you probably got a lot of feedback from your parents or caregivers about whether or not your legs were straight enough. You'd stumble and fall over if your legs weren't straight enough. This helped direct the development of your muscles in ways that would allow them to support weight while walking upright on 2 feet or 4. Similarly with eating. When we eat something new, our brains get feedback from our taste buds telling them whether or not this food is safe for us to eat again in the future, and whether or not our stomachs will accept it without causing indigestion or other problems like diarrhea. Researchers have studied feedback loops extensively through observing infants' behavior during feeding sessions. Feedback loops are a key part of success in many areas of life. If you're learning to walk, talk, or even how to eat food, it's through the use of feedback loops that you're able to master these skills. It may seem like a simple concept. If you do something and get some kind of response from your environment, like falling down, then you can adjust what you do next time and hopefully do better. However, this is one of the most basic examples of why feedback loops are so important for developing successful behaviors. For example, let's say that when I'm walking around my house, I trip over my shoestrings every time because they're untied. When this happens each time my foot hits the ground, I get information about where things are located in space related to where my body is located. This is called proprioception. It helps us know where our limbs are. This knowledge informs me that if there's something close enough that could cause me trouble while walking around, my shoe for instance, then maybe I should tie them up so they don't trip me up anymore. Eating was found to be the product of many little feedback loops, each one contributing to the maturation of infants' eating skills over time. In the wild, feedback loops help animals and people to learn new skills. In fact, without them, we would not be able to learn anything at all. But feedback loops also help us improve existing skills. If you're learning how to eat or walk or talk as an infant, for example, you do so through a series of feedback loops that gets repeated over time until you've mastered the skill. Feedback is an essential component of learning how to do anything well. In a feedback loop, you measure your performance and compare it against what you want to achieve. This allows you to identify where improvements can be made. Feedback loops are necessary for anyone who wants to improve his or her personal skills, from writing better essays, improving athletic performance, and mastering a musical instrument, all the way up to achieving mastery in meditation or yoga. It's also important for professional development. Feedback loops can help employees improve their communication skills, become more productive at work, or learn how to manage stress levels more effectively. I think the most important thing to remember about feedback loops is that they're not just for learning. In fact, they're a fundamental part of how humans learn, and that's why it's so important to understand and use them in our work lives. The next time you want to know how well you're doing something, think about what kind of feedback loop might be at play. Maybe it's not as straightforward as asking someone else for help or getting better tools. Maybe it involves making sure you're always practicing your craft or giving yourself some time off from constantly focusing on one task at a time. Whatever it takes, don't forget about those little internal mechanisms that keep us going forward towards success each day. Hey there, Plan Bers. I hope you liked that episode. Do check out other episodes on planbsuccess.live or on your favorite podcasting channel. Whatever the channel might be, go ahead and leave a review, leave a comment so that others can partake of this podcast as well. Do check out the YouTube channel as well and like, share, and subscribe and spread the word.